number 21, North Carolina takes on South Carolina Saturday at 6:30 on ABC. It's a neutral site game. North Carolina is the number 21 ranked team in the country. That seems a little bit high for me, given how they performed last season. They are 2.5-point favorites against their regional rival to the south. Trey, I'm curious. Battle of quarterbacks, at least brand name quarterbacks. I certainly think that one of them is better than the other. But this line is a very, very tight one. And I'm curious as to one, why you believe it is so tight. And two, do you think South Carolina should be the team that's favored?
Mitch, you're absolutely right. Spencer Rattler is way better than Drake May, and let me tell you why. No, I'm just kidding. This is a tight line because of North Carolina's defense, plain and simple. I think that, you look at Spencer Rattler, you look at him as a quarterback, and the numbers have just never followed the hype that he's had at Oklahoma and at South Carolina, right? But he's had moments, and he's definitely had moments against susceptible defenses. So this is definitely a game where he could put up some numbers. He could put up some big numbers. He could keep the chains moving. He can put up a lot of points, especially if North Carolina's not ready to go from the word go for whatever reason. South Carolina can jump on top of that, and they're a well-coached team that's going to be ready to go. South Carolina certainly has a better defense in the game. And what's giving me a little cause for pause from just going all in on North Carolina is the secondary at South Carolina, led by Nick Emanwari and DQ Smith, because I think that could be an X factor unit in this game. South Carolina has a really talented secondary, not just those two guys, but depth there as well. And Drake May down the stretch last year didn't exactly light the world on fire against more talented secondaries. So that's giving me a little cause for pause. Ultimately, I do think Drake May makes fewer mistakes, and that's going to ultimately lead to him leading the Tar Heels to victory. I'm going to take them -2.5, but there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. Neither team is really lighting the world on fire. I'm really concerned about South Carolina's pass rush and where that's going to come from in this game. If you give Drake May all the time in the world, I don't care who your cornerbacks are, who your safeties are, he's going to make some really big time throws.
Yeah, and for me, outside of Drake May just disappearing and having hey, he was good one year and then he forgot how to play football, that type of thing, which does happen to quarterbacks.
It's happened regularly in the ACC last year with Tyler Van Dyke.
It sure does. And so, I'm thinking outside of that, which is definitely a possibility, I don't see how you can pick South Carolina to cover this one. I'm picking UNC -2.5. I don't think South Carolina is good enough to keep up with them. I think the offense is going to be humming for UNC. I kind of don't think it matters who they throw out there at the skill positions just because of how good Drake May is. His team believes in him. Having a locker room that believes in you is a big deal. Having guys that'll go out there and know that if they can just get open or if they can just find that window, things are going to be all right. That's a big deal when it comes to these locker rooms and these games. On the other side, I don't know you can say the same thing about the guys in the South Carolina locker room. Spencer Rattler has been anything but consistent. He's had some great moments and he's had some not good moments. And so I'm just looking at this one and saying, I don't really care how good the South Carolina defense is. I don't really care how good, we think that, South Carolina's offense might be versus North Carolina's non-existent defense. I just don't believe in the South Carolina offense right now. And so I'm going to pick UNC to cover this one. I think they'll probably win by about 10. That's only because I think you might have some miscues early where they're kind of getting back in a rhythm before they catch fire and keep going.
I'll say this. If South Carolina takes care of the football, they can win this game. Their defense is certainly better than what UNC is going to put on the field, at least from what we can tell so far. But South Carolina turned the ball over a ton last season, 27 times on offense. That is not a number that they can replicate this year. One, if they want to beat North Carolina. Two, if they want to match expectations that are being lofted on them left and right to be a contender in the East. Now, I'm not one of those people. I happen to think that South Carolina finishes more in the 4 or 5 range in the East. But there's a lot of momentum for Shane Beamer in that program. Now, can he back it up on the field? Well, last year they took a great step in starting to do that. They also lost a lot of pieces, right? Marshawn Lattimore's at USC now. They lost a ton of pass rush, not to mention some of the guys in the secondary like Cam Smith that graduated and went to the NFL draft. Trey, you mentioned a couple of the cornerbacks that have stepped up. I do like their secondary, certainly more than anything that the Tar Heels are going to put on the field. But I'm a believer in Drake May over Spencer Rattler. And so I'm going to take North Carolina minus the 2.5. This is going to be a shootout. I think we could get 60+ points scored in this rather easily. And for that reason, I'm going to certainly be tuning in Saturday evening on EBC.
Gracious, yeah.